Once captain of the medical corps of Albion, Gley Elias is on a mission to find her daughter after both of them got captured by the Vulgus. Gley's arcane manifested when she was fighting her way out of the prison using her frenzied state, and over time was able to learn to control it with great effect. With this frenzied state, Gley is able to buff her currently equipped weapon, but also needs to balance her HP in the process. Let's take a look into her kit, starting with her passive. Her passive, Thirst, prevents Gley from having shields or MP. When not in the frenzied state, Gley's incoming damage is reduced. Defeated enemies have a chance to drop life spheres, which upon contact grants power of life, which will fill up the custom resource bar at the bottom of the screen. Upon acquiring power of life, recovers HP. Her first ability, Frenzied, increases firearm attack and penetration but reduces HP recovery. Activating Frenzied state is also very taxing on Gley's body, so every time she goes into that state, it will cost a bit of Gley's HP bar. Her second ability, Life Siphon, deals damage to targets within range and recovers her HP. HP recovery amount increases based on the number of enemies hit. When in a frenzied state, deals increased damage proportional to HP, and non-frenzied state grants vigor, which reduces taken damage. Bear in mind that every time Life Siphon is used, no matter what state, a portion of the custom resource bars will be used. Her third ability increases Sensory, which will in frenzied state grants maximized lethality, during which bullets are not consumed. In other words, infinite ammo for a certain amount of time, noted by the icon on the left side of the screen. When in a non-frenzied state, applies maximum recovery, during which life sphere generation is increased. And just like frenzied, using a skill will cost a bit of Gley's HP bar. Her final ability, Massacre, equips a unique weapon. The number of bullets loaded is affected by the amount of power of life owned, which is the custom resource. When hitting an enemy with Massacre, deals damage and inflicts additional effects. In a frenzied state, increases additional damage proportional to Gley's current HP, and in non-frenzied state, inflicts stun on enemies that are hit. At the time of this recording, Gley has 6 Transcendent Mods to enhance her abilities. Starting off with the first one, Demonic Modification, which changes the Massacre into a pistol that can charge up while constantly consuming HP when it's out. Attacking weak points increases the chance of HP recovery. Next we have Explosive Life, which increases the chance of life spheres being created after an enemy dies. You can then detonate the current life spheres in the area to great effect. Next we have Blood and Iron, which makes the ability to generate power of life, the custom resource bar, easier by landing critical hits instead of getting a kill. Predator Instinct is next, which allows gradual increase in weapon damage when in a frenzied state. Massive Simplification is next, and that gives the ability to pull any life spheres in the area to yourself when you're not frenzied, but in the frenzied state, activating the skill will grant 3 stacks of power of life resource and deals damage to enemies within range. Lastly, we have Super Sense, which reduces the fire rate of your currently equipped weapon significantly, but the duration of lethality is increased. Now that we have an understanding of how Gley works, let's take a look at 3 builds, starting with the first one. Alright, for our first build, we're going to be focusing on whatever gun Gley has in her hand. The weapon is just going to be buffed as much as possible. So for reactors, it doesn't really matter. We just as long as it's a non-attribute reactor, that's the important thing. Don't worry about fusions, singular, and all that, because we're not using skills, so that won't benefit us at all. The main thing is look for your substats, which is skill cooldown, skill duration up. Those are very good to make sure that your max lethality, which is the infinite ammo cycle, is just constantly going, so you can keep on just shooting down range. External components, we had the Annihilation set. It's just really good just because at the 50% and below of your HP, your firearm attack is going to be increased based on that. And since Gley is constantly reducing her HP with her abilities, it just eventually you'll get to the halfway point and you'll be able to deal a lot more damage with that. Arcade tuning, we're going to be focusing on the left side tree here on just anything with firearm attack in it, and we don't really care about survivability because that's more HP that we'll have to burn through and get to that 50% and below. So just focus on that and you'll be fine. Speaking of weapons, we have the Albion Cavalry. If you haven't seen my video, definitely check that out. Restored Relic is also a solid one if you want to see boom booms and explosions. It's a really fun build to have where you can just send rockets down range infinitely. For fellows, I highly suggest the Vesper's Hunting Dog, mainly because of the automatic refill rounds. Is very helpful. If you miss your cycle, he's good. If you're wanting to stay within the 50% state, I do not recommend going with a sheepdog because his passive is healing Descendant, but if you don't really care about staying within that threshold of the 50 and below, just keep it topped off is really nice for the sheepdog. Now for the mods, we have the Predator Instinct. Using a firearm with Frenzy gradually increases firearm attack. Again, we're buffing our weapons as much as possible, so shot focus is also going to be part of this build here. For survivability, we're doing battle stamina with HP, increased HP, and overwhelming HP. This build has been tested in 30 runs, so you still need to be a little bit tanky for 30s at the time of this recording. 40s will be coming out soon, but you know, survival is good to be able to do that. Now, if you want the max lethality to be out as much as possible, we want a little bit of duration, so battle stamina is just a good double one on there. Max duration. We're losing skill power, but again, I'm not using skills, so it doesn't really matter. Skill extension right there. For cooldowns, we have MP conversion, focus on non-attribute for our cooldowns, and that is hitting us to about 20 seconds. Now, if you notice here, we have Veterans Tactics, which I found is to be a pretty interesting mod. If you're going to use this gun build for mobbing for 400s, it actually works pretty well, because if you use your Restored Relic, you proc the 19.4% chance of fully resetting. That means no cooldown and just instantly is right there. And 400s is a very good spot to do that, and you just pop, easy, nice and go. But if you're running like something like 30s and above, the mob density isn't as prevalent and all that, and so you won't proc this Veteran Tactic. So I would suggest swapping it out with Nimble Fingers if you're running 30s for that. Last but not least, we have Walk the Tightrope. When HP is 50% lower, skill power and firearm attack is increased. This just works well with the Annihilation set. So that is the gun only build. Let's move on to the next build. Alright, for this next build, we're going to be focusing on a skill-based build, so we have to make sure we have the right reactor, and that one is going to be a focus on Dimension, non-attribute one. My substats is not what I would like. I would recommend going with cooldown as well as range for this one. External components is the Slayer set, just because 26.1% skill power damage output, pretty nice as well. Arcade tuning, we're going to be focusing on the right side tree. Anything with enhanced skills is always going to be a good one. This one node is really nice. And then we have that little bit of cooldown. You're going to have a little bit of leftovers if you hit 40, so make sure you put into HP for survivability. Weapons, it's not really important, I'm going to be honest. Malevolent is a good solid one, because with this build you have to sort of get the engine rolling, but once you start rolling, you're rolling. So you need to get a few kills to get those orbs and be able to go forward from there. Fellow, I would suggest going with the Hagios Sheepdog. Unlike the gun build, having the healing is really nice, but if you don't really care for that, you can go with the Hunting Dog for your preference of choice. So let's go ahead and take a look at the mods. I did call it Boom Boom because we're going to be using the Explosive Life Transcendent mod. Detonates enemy life spheres to deal damage and recover power of life, which is your custom meter, which is pretty impressive right there. Grapple hook is not really important, whatever you want. Cooldowns, we're going with Nimble as well as MP conversion for that. We're going to lose some MP, but we don't use MP, so it's totally fine. For damage output, we're going to be using non-attribute specialist, the blue mod, technician, skill power modifier, non-attribute amplification right there. And then for range mods, we're going to do amplification control. We don't really care about shields, but the range is nice. Effective range right here for skill expansion. A little bit of cost, we're going to use weight to scales. I really don't care about max shields, so that's why I have a T1, because it doesn't really matter here. Increase HP for our one healing mod, and then autoimmunity for HP recovery and incoming damage modifier, because we're going to be taking a lot of damage from this one. Now, the way it works to get this started is make sure you're not in the frenzied state to start off with. Go off frenzy, because it'll give you a chance to spawn those orbs. Gather at least 3 and then go into your frenzy state, because it gives you a buff for the explosion attacks. and then you can just spam your tube moving forward. That's just how you need to make sure you rev up the engine, so to speak. But once you get going, it's quite fun. You can hide behind walls and explode things and just watch the damage fly. Alright, for our third and final build, this is the reason why this video has taken this long to make, because there's so many nuances of testing that I've done that I thought I had a grasp, and then something new came up, and yeah, I'm just having more questions than anything, so I just want to go in the corner and cry. Anyway, for our reactor, we're going to be going for the non-attribute dimension one, because we're going to be using our fourth ability. Base stats are going to be skill duration and skill cooldown. Slayer set is going to be our component set of choice because of skill power of 26.1%. Very good one to have. Arcade tuning is going to be the same as my mobbing. I don't know why I have Massacre as a third one. I guess I'm just sleep deprived. But cooldown and skill power, very good one to have. There's no difference between them, as you can see here. For weapons, now this is where all the testing and crazy question marks I have with this game is because Massacre, which is the fourth ability, takes the base stats of the weapon you currently have as well as the fire rate. And so since we have limited time to use our infinite ammo buff, we need to have as much bullets downrange as possible. At the time of this recording, Python has the highest fire rate in the game with 923 RPMs, or rounds per magazine. And yeah, so we had to use this one, and base stats at the current time is 451,000 DPS. That's where the game takes the damage. It's weird, I don't know why. And it's weird too is that when I was coring this thing, base DPS is at 400,000 with a toxic buff, but when I did flat fireman attack, it reduced the DPS. But then in the mod side, as we can see, it's 971 DPS for this build here, but then it went to 1,000,000 when the flat firearm. So I don't know what's going on with this, I'm going to be honest with you. That's why I'm so confused, but this is why I found out. 451 with the elemental buff and crit hit rate, crit hit damage, fireman attack, toxic attack, and again there's a blue one. If you had gold, you'd probably be able to increase the DPS right there. Mods wise, you want to go with flat damage as much as possible to be able to get 90k per shot, at least with Devour. So I have weak point with fireman attack, weapon tuning at fireman attack, charge amplification, marksman, stance stabilizer, anything with a percentage of attack in it, toxic enhancement, action reaction, rifle reinforcement, fire rate up blue, and then sharp precision shot just for our fire rate, because that does add to the fire rate count, which is interesting, and that makes it weird as well. And also, in case you're wondering, inversion reinforcements, any of these elements does not affect it. So if you want to stack the toxic fuse rounds, it does not change your damage output in the slightest. So it's really not needed there. So yeah, it was a lot of questions, and I'm still don't understand. Gley just made this whole thing complicated. For the mods, we're going mass amplification. Just mainly because when you are in your frenzied state and you pop your second ability, you automatically get 3 stacks, which is the minimum requirement to be able to pop Massacre. So that's just an easy way. So when you start your boss fight, you just pop it instantly, you're good to go. Mid-air maneuvering for my grapple doesn't really matter. Damage is dimension amplification with non-crit, non-attribute with non-crit. And then our cooldowns is nimble fingers with MP conversion right there. HP is battle stamina. We're going to be on the low side of HP because we want to get as low as possible quickly so we can proc our walk the tightrope for our extra skill modifier there. Autoimmunity just for the damage in case, since the boss hunt doesn't want to be nice, so you can survive a little bit. Skill simplification for skill power modifier, and then a little bit of skill duration and skill duration right there. But yeah, this was complicated, and think I don't even fully grasp how Massacre works, I'm going to be honest with you, but I'm hitting about 90k on Devour and all that. Now, one thing to note is that Massacre is very dated build. And I made this video just mainly because people will probably ask about it. It's not doing good. It can do Pyromaniac with a little bit of effort, one phase it and all that. Molten is still a struggle and all that, and I would not even try Gluttony and Deathstalker. It just, unfortunately, no matter how much damage buffing I have, that's part of the testing, it's just not a good build. Like the gun build I have far surpasses the DPS of Massacre, and so if Nexon wants to buff it, they really need to buff Gley's skill power output because it's not looking good for Massacre. But anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry it took this long to make this video. Thanks for watching, and please make sure to share it with a friend and like this video to get reach to more people. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.